Hello, everyone. Bobby Jones here. Um, I debated whether or not I wanted to go live, but I just can't keep my peace anymore. The fierceness and the urgency of now, as Dr. King called it. NBC News reported that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has done two major things that have come to light. One, everybody pretty much knows about, and that is, the firing of the Army's chief of staff, the number one general in the United States Army, General George. Um, but then there was an article that NBC News came out with that talked about the systemic denial of promotions of senior officers into the admiral and general ranks of the United States military. And it is really, really causing me to be angry. And I'm trying to be as calm and as possible I can be when I'm talking about this. But I've wondered and started to think, why is this the biggest issue with Hegseth? Why does he think this is the most important issue, and that is image and who's portrayed in leadership and all of this? And the bottom line is Pete Hegseth is a little man. He harbors a lot of anger, specifically towards the United States Army, because he was a failed officer. But the culture wars that he's fighting are the only ones that he feels like he's competent enough to actually wage. So let me explain what I mean by this. Number one, look at the officers that this man has relieved since he took over as Secretary of Defense. From Charles Q. Brown, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, black man, combat pilot, all the stuff that, you want to have expertise in case I don't know, you go to war in the Middle East, primarily through the air, at least initially. His expertise out the window. Okay. When I look at Admiral Lisa Franchetti, who he relieved, who was the chief of naval operations, the first female to have that position. And the only thing that she did during her tenure as CNO, the attacks that the Houthis had on U.S. Navy ships in the Red Sea, all of them were unsuccessful because the crews were trained and equipped to deal with the mission. And yet here we are over a year later, and the Houthis are attacking in the same area. And now the world is scared because the Red Sea could be shut down as well as the Strait of Hormuz. It's almost like you would want somebody who was in charge of the Navy that had the expertise and the experience to have dealt with that. Oh, wait, she did. You fired her because she was a she. Okay. When you look at other officers that were senior, like our primary liaison to NATO, the same NATO that after a year of bashing them, that Trump says is desperately needed to get the Strait of Hormuz open. Well, you fired a person that they trusted because she was a she. And what this is leading us to is this whole crusade against DEI was really the Fifth Crusade. And the Fifth Crusade was about reestablishing white male mediocrity despite saying you want the best. You had the best, you fired it, and now you're trying to find people that identify with your ideals instead of being the most qualified. Do you want to know why we're struggling throughout all of this right now? Why the United States is going into a second month of a conflict that was supposed to last 3 days? It is because the voices in the room that you surrounded the commander in chief and the secretary of defense with are people who weren't the subject matter experts. Because the subject matter experts you had either have too much pigmentation in their skin, they are the wrong gender, or heaven forbid, they were subject matter experts that were appointed by the previous administration. And what you're seeing now is the result of that. As I'm recording this, there's a rescue mission for another downed U.S. fighter jet. The same fighter jets that President Trump basically has said are invincible. As I'm recording this, the Strait of Hormuz is now the world's most expensive toll booth. As I'm recording this, 13, 14, 15 military bases in the Middle East are abandoned. As I'm recording this, there is not only no diplomatic solution, but the United States has its allies negotiating around it. And then finally, which is the sweetest twist of irony, as I'm recording this, the people that President Trump has fired, Chrissy Nome, Pam Bondi, it's rumored that Gabbard is next, are all women. The one thing history is going to be able to say is this whole mess can only be put at the doorstep of one type of demographic, since demographics all of a sudden matter. See, the great myth here is Hegseth believes, Trump believes that merit is white male only. And that if anybody else has achieved the rank and the recognition to be at that level, someone must have gave it to them when it's the exact opposite. I guarantee you every officer of color and every female officer that was being looked at for general or admiral can give you a definitive story of the bullshit they had to overcome to get there, that they should never have had to gone through. So they had to prove another level of resiliency that a Hegseth never had to. Because, Hegseth, with his DUI having, never got command ass, never had to deal with that. As a matter of fact, he's the type of person that probably put those people through the crap they're putting them through. And so now he's doing the unprecedented thing of having these people stricken from promotion before they go in front of Congress, which hopefully they will overrule all of that. But the fact that he thinks that is important when he has an active war going on with no solution is mind boggling to me. The very thing that they swore that they wanted to highlight, excellence, 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 this, that, and the other, they basically said had a certain look. And what's ironic is it's now going to get Americans killed. It's going to get servicemen and women killed. I guarantee you, if you talk to anybody that knew these officers that were denied promotion or forced to retire, you'll hear a common theme. Some of the best I've ever served with, the best I ever served with, this, that, and the other. And now it's gone. When Hegseth had those 800 admirals, generals, and senior enlisted come to meet and listen to him peacock for freaking how many minutes, there was a combined over 25,000 years of military experience in the room. And he, the failed '04 major, had the nerve to tell them they're the ones that's not good enough. I joined the United States Navy decades ago because I was told it's one of the few places where a black man can get ahead if he is good enough. And I believed it. I believed it. Despite some of my individual things I had to go through, for the most part, they were correct. And now because we have a mental degenerate running the goddamn Department of Defense, and all because we have a commander in chief who has some, again, 1980s action flick version of what he thinks the military is because he doesn't know because he dodged the draft 5 times. And now, as the world is burning and there's no solution, you think it's a priority to just fire more people that don't look like you. History is going to make a note of this. When they deconstruct what happened to the United States of America, what was the tipping point that pushed us into permanent decline? They're going to come back to this moment. They're going to look at who was in charge and what they did prior to and then after. They're going to look at the results. And I honestly believe this is the beginning of watching the greatest, and I mean greatest, fall of a public figure in American history. That's just my thoughts. My heart aches for those individuals who have served 30, plus years to get to this point just to have a petty little man deny them what they so rightfully earned. We're supposed to be better than this. And this is happening while the same man is sending thousands of troops to the Middle East to deal with an impossible situation created by a boss that does not know what it means to be selfless.